Okay, I want to thank Bill for the warm introduction. I want to thank you all for coming today. I have a lot of familiar faces and some people I haven't seen for a while, and some people I don't know, so it's great. So it's a nice mixed group and a lot of depth of talent I can see in the group too, so it's quite humbling for you to come along and listen to what we've got to say today. Before we start, there's something for you to do, so can you please grab your mobile device, and we want you to log on to this website here because you'll need to participate during the presentation. So can you just take that QR code and get into the website, enter your name when it prompts you to, please. Okay, starting to come in now. Good on you, Bill, Ivan, Rob, good on you. Good on you, there we go. Everyone coming in now. Okay, cool. Everyone okay with that? Looks like we've got most of you in there already. Good stuff. All right. Let's move on. The second thing I want to say is that today we're going to be, as Bill said, we'll be talking about the Shaping the Future You as the topic, but as part of the Humanised Workforce Future You series, what this means is that Steve and I have published about 61 podcasts related to this topic on Spotify and various other avenues. And as part of that, we've done about 55 interviews of people and then otherwise drill down into data. And so we've collected a lot of data, a lot of opinions. We've talked to a very wide range of people, from students, university students, through to senior entrepreneurs and executives, seasoned executives in companies. So a lot of very big range of people from all over Australia. We interviewed people in the US and up in Southeast Asia as well. So we've gathered this data, and what we're trying to do now is drill down into it, and we want to share some of it with you today to find out. But overall, it's a very positive and optimistic story that we're going to be telling. So the first thing we want you to do is to do a quick survey. So the first thing is a poll. So over the last few years, how has technology allowed business to transform and improve operations for employees and customers? So can you put your answer in for that, please? Okay, here come the answers in. Great. Anyone having trouble?
A little bit of trouble here.
Oh, see, so somewhat, okay, a little bit distributed. Okay, so most of the answers are towards the right-hand side, which is good. And but some people saying that the technology's improved significantly and some dramatically. That's good. Okay, let's go on to the next one, Steve. Good, thank you for that. Thank you for that input. So the Humanised Workforce Future You was born as a concept about 1.5 years ago. And what I wanted to do was to do something around something that was positive about the future of work. The future of work receives a lot of bad press. I think the mainstream media loves to dress it up as something that's, everyone's going to lose their jobs and a whole bunch of other things are going to happen bad to the world. And I'm actually an optimist by nature. And can you just put your microphones on mute? Everyone put this stuff on mute. Thank you. You put your microphones on mute. Thank you. So I'm an optimist by nature. And so I thought we've got to do something about this because I actually think the future is exciting. I've been in technology industry off and on for a long time. And technology always seems to bring, in most cases, brings positive things for people's lives. And change is something I've always embraced, and I'm always excited by change. So I didn't see it as a negative at all. So I teamed up initially with a lady called Cathy Doyle, who I think is one of Australia's finest HR professionals. And we came up with the idea about Humanised Workforce Future You. And Cathy had done a lot of work in the organisations she'd worked in, such as Rabobank, and trying to humanise the workforce and talking about a lot of the future of work stuff within Rabobank. And in the end, Kathy's workload became too much, and I joined up with Steve. Steve was kind enough to to work with me on this, and we've been partners for more than a year now doing this. And we've been able to meet an amazing range of people. But basically, we're talking about technology, we're talking about the way people think, and we're talking about skills and career change and opportunity. But above all, we're talking about optimism, and that's what we're finding amongst the people we talk to and the issues that we drill down into. So today we're going to talk to you about two things. Steve's firstly going to talk to you about what paradigm shifts we've found from talking to people and interviewing people, making work more humanized. And he's going to talk to you about those issues. And then I'm going to come on and talk to you about the main things that have surfaced about trying to position the future you, whether you're a leader or whether you're an individual contributor. What are the things you need to do, or what are the things people are focusing on to position the future you, and so that your future fit for what's coming out in the humanised workforce. So Steve's going to talk to you, cover these topics here. Optimism, I don't need to read them to you. And so over to you, Steve. Can you enlighten us about what is happening in the more humanised workforce? Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so firstly, thank you very much for coming and for attending this talk. It's great to be able to be here and talk to you fine people. And it's been great over the last 12 months to work with Craig. Actually, Craig, I met Craig somewhat by accident a bit over 12 months ago at one of these sessions. And as it turned out, we got working together, and now we've done probably 66 of these podcasts in this series. And we've sort of had a division of labor. Craig is fantastic at drilling down and asking people questions. And I'm kind of the summing up guy who kind of leads in at the rear and brings it all together. So largely what we're going to do here is to sort of give you descriptive information, what we've found, not so much deep analysis of what we've found, but I want to sort of preface what I'm doing by focusing on this idea here. I'm going to try and use this pen of this idea of more humanized and what this actually means. And I just want to give you two lenses to think about what this is. One is the idea of the workplace being more humanized versus more automated. So the role of people as distinct from the role of machines. And what is that going to look like? And how do we navigate that going forward? It's a bit like in the, say in the movie Jurassic Park, where the guy talks about the idea that after, with a gap of 65 million years of evolution, suddenly dinosaurs and humans were thrown into the mix. Well, it's a bit like that with machines. They're evolving so rapidly, and humans and machines are thrown into the mix. And how do we navigate that? What's that going to look like? How do we redeem humanity out of all of that? And so that's one lens. And the other lens to think about has got to do more with purpose of work. Is work about making stuff? Is it about doing things? Or is it equally as much about human evolution and what we're becoming as human beings and as a human race? And what's the human journey and the human project about? So part of that is looking forward, and what does that imply about the way we need to be in the future? And it's also about looking backwards to pick up on things that have always been true, have always been important, and make sure we don't lose those. And as Craig said, an overwhelming issue has been optimism. And I was a little bit surprised about that, to be honest, when I first started this, or we first got engaged with this. I thought that there was going to be a lot of pessimism about the future of work. I thought people were going to be afraid of AI and automation and machines taking over people's work. And it's been really interesting to see that there's been such a sense of optimism. Now, maybe that's a selection bias because we're talking, that's the purpose of the podcast. So that could be part of it. But it's highlighted the broad benefits that are that people can see in humans and machines working together, and that work as an expression of human becoming. And there's been this overwhelming sense of that's going to bring lots of benefits that we haven't seen in the past. There's going to be challenges for sure, but it's going to liberate people. It's going to free us up to be able to do things that human beings are good at doing. And this is a theme really that's come through, that technology allows people to stop doing the things that are kind of more menial, maybe more tedious, more repetitive tasks, and will allow humans to be free to do things that humans are good at doing. Allow machines to do things that they're good at doing, and allow humans to do things that we're good at doing. And of course, that will probably converge in the future as machines get smarter. So optimism is a big theme. Hang on, I'm using this pen. Okay, so here's a little quiz for you. Do you sense a mood of optimism among business owners or employees regarding the future? What's your sense of it as you talk to people? Do they seem to be optimistic or not? Or are you not sure about that? So this is one of these polls. So have a go at doing this one. I'll give you a few minutes to do this. Just, okay, a bit of a mixture. Okay, very cool. So overwhelmingly seems to be a sense of optimism. That's cool. All right, let's move on. So another theme that's come through is this idea of cooperation and collaboration. And as I said a moment ago, this idea that humans and machines are going to be collaborating and cooperating together, rather than seeing us in competition with machines. It's as machines become smarter, they'll be able to interact with us more. They'll be able to be kind of like loyal wingmen who kind of sit at our side and help us to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, or things that they can do better than us, quicker than us, drilling down and finding information and making connections. And so that there's going to be this cooperation between humans and machines. And of course, there needs to be down here on this one, the knowledge sharing, which is the cooperation between humans and humans. And this came out to be a significant point too, that we need in the future of work to be more willing to share what we know with people. Less structured with hierarchies, that we need to be more willing to provide the time and the opportunities and the mechanism for people who have got knowledge to share it with people who are developing their knowledge. And yes, there will be opportunities, lots and lots of opportunities as people learn to collaborate and cooperate with each other, rather than just competing with each other. That maybe, competition might be something between organizations, but within organizations, there needs to be opportunities for closer working, for more collaboration, for more cooperation and sharing of knowledge. But of course, there will be losses as well. Automation, AI, and so on is definitely going to cause some jobs to disappear. And that's just how it's kind of always been, or been for a long time since the Industrial Revolution, and probably a long time before that. So this theme of cooperation and collaboration, as opposed to competition. Not that competition will disappear, but that these things are going to be more important. And then there's this theme of release, that menial work will become something that will be increasingly done by machines. Now, there's a cost to that, of course, because there are people who are doing menial work, and maybe that's not menial to them necessarily, but it's just going to create more opportunities for people to do more fulfilling work, hopefully. That it will be a release for creativity. And this is, again, something that human beings can do well. Machines will probably get much better at this as well. As I don't think they're that great at it at the moment. They're more following instructions. But human beings have got, it's one of the things that make us human, our creativity, our ability to come up with new ideas. We've got that capacity. But a lot of it has been, limited by the way work has been. So there's this optimism that this will be more something that's more released into the workplace. And of course, health and well-being. As people are able to engage with work that's more meaningful to them, where they can be more creative and express themselves more, hopefully that will create a healthier workplace where people will enjoy going to work and doing what they do. Now, of course, again, there's pressures and stresses on people, and those need to be managed as part of all of this. Hang on, did I miss something? Diversity, equity, inclusion was another theme. That the future of work will hopefully create more opportunities for people. When I say hopefully, I mean, obviously, this is something we need to manage. And we need to purposefully design these things and make sure that we're aware of it. But more opportunities for more people. In the past, people have been isolated because they didn't quite fit in, or they weren't part of the mainstream. But that's changing as people are becoming more aware that to progress the human story, the human project, we need to embrace diversity and different perspectives so that we can solve the problems. That many voices will be a part of this new workforce, that we will hear people's perspectives, people who didn't get a chance to voice their perspectives in the past will be more able to do that as we're trying to solve problems, and we need different perspectives to understand what the future is going to look like. There will be challenges, of course. Some of the challenges will be felt by organisations. How do we structure systems and processes to allow for more diversity? And some of it will be our own personal challenges as we learn to deal with people increasingly who have got different views to us. And how do we accommodate that without being critical or judgmental, but being more accepting? And so there will be challenges that we need to confront here. Now, let me just do this here. It doesn't always work. Okay, another one of these quizzes. From your experience, how much progress do you think has been made in this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda? Not much, somewhat, or lots? Let's go to one of these polls again. Okay, a couple of people, just some more people. All right, well, not too many people have done it so far, but look, we've got a bit of a view here.
Why don't you just try the chat? Like, I can't actually get back into it, so I'm not quite sure how.
Okay, well, yeah.
Can you put the QR code up again,
Yeah,
Steve?
I've got the same issue. I can't go past. It's stuck on the last
There's the
question.
QR code, everyone. There's the QR code. You can log back in.
Okay.
I mean, this is a good case in point of trying to manage the challenge of humanity and technology. You know, it doesn't. We've got to get used to it.
Steve, there is poll in
Steve, the
Zoom.
reason I haven't
challenge
answered
There
is the
there
poll.
poll in Zoom.
Okay. Look, we're all just trying to learn all this stuff here. This is
Um,
There should be
Can-
functionality.
Can I just
poll.
say something? The answers that you have on the screen and the answers that I have
Exactly,
to
they-
choose from are
they're
not the
not right.
same.
One
They're
says
out of
yes,
sync.
no, unsure.
Can you see these?
Yeah, we can. But the answers aren't aligning to what the question is, Steve. Let's just move on, Steve. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. All right. So, this idea of distributed working together, this is obviously going to be an important thing. Workers, especially younger people, are looking for options. They don't necessarily just want to have to go to the office. I think we probably know this. So creating options is going to be an important thing. Organizations that can't do that very well are going to probably lose out. There are going to be challenges to manage with this. Some of these challenges are related around how do managers manage staff when they're not all in the office together. But there's also challenges for people who are working remotely. How do they get noticed if they're not turning up to the office? Does that disadvantage them in some way? So there's these challenges. But of course, there's global opportunities. And a lot of the younger people that we've interviewed have seen that they don't think anything about a global workforce. They're quite happy to work for people who are living in different countries, and that's not really an issue to them. So this is part of the way things are moving. Look, I don't know if we should even venture to this. What do you think, Craig?
Just try it, I think.
Just try. What's your current work environment?
once more, yeah.
Organization?
People get on.
Let's see how we go with this. Predominantly remote, unsure.
Yeah, so the answers are
No, it's got yes, no, unsure. I don't
They
know.
don't line up again.
they don't line up again.
I
Something's
think
going on. with it.
let's just put it in the
Actually,
chat.
maybe what the problem is that I'm pressing the wrong button. Let me try something else. This one. This is what I'm trying to. I think I've pressed the wrong button before.
The response.
You might need to press the refresh button on the app and then it comes up now.
Okay. So what is the current work environment in your organization?
Yeah.
Dominantly hybrid.
You guys are guinea pigs with this.
Yeah. Anyhow, that looks good now, Steve. I think you've worked out
Okay,
the
all
problem.
right.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
predominantly hybrid.
Yep, that's
is what
good.
we're getting here. Okay,
So
that's
predominantly hybrid is the answer. Good.
okay. All right. So I think this is the last one, and this is the flexibility thing. Look, adaptability is increasingly important. And I remember one of the things that came up in one of the interviews was to say that in terms of dealing with technology, it's often been the managers that have struggled more than the average workers to adapt. And I'm not sure whether that's because managers might be older or what. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is, but learning to be adaptable is super important because the world is changing. It gives organizations and individuals a competitive advantage, and it increases the productivity if we can be flexible and adaptable. And that's increasingly important. So look, these are the things that I've talked about and that have come up as important to make work more humanized. Now I'm going to hand back to Craig, and he's going to take us through to the next aspect here, which is the future you. So over to you, Craig.
Thanks very much, Steve. That's great. So that's about what we just covered is about the humanizing of the workforce and what humans can do differently. And now I'm just going to talk about the future you, or how people are talking about shaping the future you and preparing for that humanized workforce. So remember that the future you could be an individual contributor, and we spoke to plenty of those people, and they have personal strategies and things that they're doing to position themselves as competitive in an environment, but also leaders. There's implications for leaders as well. I'll be covering some of those things as well. So these are the main topics I'll be covering, and you can read those for yourself. The first one is learning. So with learning, you know, I think from my experience, tertiary institutions have been talking about lifelong learning for a long time, at least 20 years that I know of, and possibly longer. But increasingly, I'm finding that lifelong learning is being used in the day-to-day vernacular. And I was just reading an email this morning, and someone was referring to it in their EDM. So the thing about learning is that it's both an organizational piece. So there's an organization needs to be a learning organization which has learning as part of their culture. And one of the organizations I was CEO of, we had that as one of our core values, is to continuous improvement was one of the core values that we had. But what we have here is the most important thing is the personal learning piece. So the people that we spoke to had individual self-improvement or training programs in place. They were doing courses, but the big change is, from when I was younger, is that a lot of people felt they had to go to university, or they felt they had to do a course through a recognized training institution or go to TAFE or something like that. But now people are just picking up courses everywhere. The training market globally is very accessible, and people are just picking up courses. They might sit on a language training and learn French. They might sit on online and learn how to play the basics of the piano, or they might teach themselves the basics of some other skill that they need for their professional life. So learning is something that is becoming more and more ingrained into people's lives. And a lot of the people that we spoke to that had successful plans had personal plans for that. The opportunity, people are taking opportunities. So some of the people we talked about how they were positioning themselves was they had taken opportunities, and opportunities presented to them. It's not necessarily a step up the ladder, this mythical ladder that we've all heard about in the corporate. It's about actually taking an opportunity in life, right? And following and trying to enhance the skills that you have. So sometimes it's a sideways move, sometimes it's perceived to be a downwards move, but they take opportunities. And overall, the person that is built is future fit. So it's not just about this sequential thing of progressing through an organization. Accepting change was a big thing for these people, learning how to accept change. And of course, this is Steve's area of expertise, is helping people be fit enough to change and being able to do it. But being able to do that is not something everyone can do, but learning how to accept change as a normal thing in life and being part of it. And then the other way is to choose different pathways. So when you are at a certain stage in your life, you might think that the next 3 years are going to come out a certain way, but actually they come out a different way. And so be flexible and agile to choose different paths. And that's not only true for individuals, but true for organizations as well. So learning is a very important thing for positioning and shaping the future you. Thanks. So what I'd like you to do now is to write in one or many words into the word cloud and see what important learning you have acquired in the last year or so personally. This is a personal response. Thanks. Do you need the QR code up? There you go. We've got some submissions. Fantastic. Online presentations. Yeah, I think we've all had to learn that skill. Mental health has been a major topic for us, hasn't it, in the community and also individuals. Coaching self and others. Yep. Fantastic. Interesting, right? I didn't see learning French up there or learning piano, but anyhow, I'm sure there are other soft skills as well. Good. Okay, let's move on. Thank you very much for the input there. So the next point is psychological safety. Let's move on to that. Okay, psychological safety. Now, this was quite something that came up as a thread through a lot of the interviews we've done and a lot of the discussions we've had with people. Incredibly important now to have a psychologically safe environment. A lot of the corporates, and you know, we've got Mark Perbrick on the meeting today, and this is Mark's expertise is about engagement in organisations and so on. And I was having a discussion with Mark recently, actually, about how low the engagement levels are in a lot of organisations still. And even though engagement has been a big discussion for a long time, it's still a very big challenge for organisations. And some of the engagement piece comes around and is related to this psychological safety in an organisation, whether there is trust in the organisation, if you share information or you have an opinion, how that's going to be used or whether it's going to be taken seriously. And it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a topic that is being raised quite a lot, but it means different things to different people. So some of the people we interviewed were DEI experts, so to speak, but mainly it was around the gender piece and trying to get gender equity within an organisation. But a more recent interview we did with an entrepreneur in Toronto in Canada, Praveen Ponaru, and we're going to publish Praveen's podcast later today. But he was talking about, he is originally from India, and he was talking about immigrating to Canada, and we have plenty of people who've done similar journeys in life coming into Australia, and talking about how hard it is to get that equity and inclusion piece when you're not from a mainstream culture. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge topic. It's a very big issue for organisations, and to get that inclusion piece, and ultimately back to the topic I was talking to Mark about, which is that engagement, which is that journey to get the higher level of engagement and trust in the organisation, you really have to embrace that DEI piece. And so from a future you perspective, you need to feel you are included in an organisation and that you have equity and that your opinion counts. The other thing is about psychological safety is when you are proposing solutions for problem solving, that your opinions are being taken seriously and that they're not going to be necessarily held against you. And also from a leadership perspective, if you're a future fit leader, then you need to be able to take on all opinions. And so one of the things that themes that came up for us was the leader is facilitating a process. They don't have to have all the answers. And so in the room, you have all this diverse, hopefully you have a diverse group. They're not all the same looking as you, and that you welcome the opinions. And somewhere in the room, if you've hired the right people, there's going to be a way to work out the problem. There's a way to get the solution, but you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be able to make it a safe environment, psychologically safe environment. And that allows that to happen. Thanks, Steve. So from telemanagement perspective, of course, this is here. You're managing your own talent, but if you're a leader, you're also managing an organizational talent as well. Some of the executives we interviewed increasingly are hiring talent that they don't even need now, but they know they'll need it in 12 months. So they're snapping up the talent in the market that is available because they know in 6 to 12 months they're going to need it, and in 6 to 12 months it's going to be harder to get. So they're hiring for the future. They're not just hiring for now. So the other thing is because they've done this analysis, and there's an amazing company called Fathom in Australia who we also interviewed someone from Fathom, and they have an AI engine which helps companies predict the type of talent or whatever they're going to need and do an analysis across their workforce so that they can help them train people or hire people to plug the skills gaps they're going to need in 6 to 12 months. And so retraining and repositioning people in your organization is a very high priority for leaders, and also leaders themselves are repositioning themselves for what the organisation they're in wants, not just what is required at the moment. And that's the constant dance, isn't it? But from a talent management perspective, it's important to think from an organisational view, but also from an individual view. So some of the people we spoke to are talking about how they position their individual brand, how they're selling. And in our breakout group before we started this session, we were talking to each other about selling yourself, right? And not only training yourself, but selling yourself and how you're going to be positioning yourself. But the same thing happens at an organizational level of positioning the talent pool that's in your organization. So this is a very important thing about managing the talent at an individual level and at an organizational level. Thanks. So creativity is incredibly important for being able to manage a change agenda and to solve problems. So if you have an environment where people do feel safe, and we talked about psychological safety earlier, people feel safe, they're able to take a risk. And, most of you know I was in Japan for a long time, and one of the favorite songs at karaoke for the Butchos was I Did It My Way. And mostly out of tune, so that was awesome. But in the lyrics of that song, it talks about mistakes. I made a few, but then again, too few to mention. And that's probably a big mistake, because they should have made a lot of mistakes and be prepared to learn from those mistakes. So I think being able to have an environment where you can make mistakes, I think is important. And as long as you're learning from mistakes and the organization's moving forward. I think one of the problems I found in Japanese organizations is they were very risk averse for making mistakes, and analysis paralysis was a big problem. So the other thing was about group dynamics. So when you have a psychologically safe environment, then it encourages creativity, it encourages problem solving, and this allows you to evolve and have a change agenda that's going to be delivered. Thanks, Steve. So the last thing I want to talk about before we do one more survey is transformational leadership. Now, this clearly is aimed at the leaders. When you are shaping your future you as a leader, you need to be able to be a transformational leader. Now, transformational change is a big change. It's not just a incremental. So to be able to make big changes as a leader, you need to have a big picture view. So be able to see the big picture. And once again, in our earlier discussion in the smaller breakout rooms we had, Claudia was talking about being a systems thinker. And this is part of being a systems thinker, is you need to have a big picture. You need to be able to balance risk with your strategy. Well, one of the great things about having a strategic plan is it goes hand in hand with your risk profile. So when you have a high risk profile, then you're prepared to have an aggressive strategic plan. But if you have a low risk profile, then your plan will be much more conservative. Your strategic plan will be much more conservative. So risk and strategy go hand in hand and are balancing each other. You need to have a clear purpose and a vision. So of course, the mission and the vision and the strategy and all that sort of stuff has been around for a long time. But of course, everything now, all the customers I talk to, all of the interaction I have with clients, they're talking about purpose. It's a very common thing, and we have to thank, Simon Sinek was one of the big instigators of that a long time ago. But why do you come to work? What is the purpose of your organization? What is the purpose of you as a professional? Everyone's talking about purpose now, and it goes hand in hand with the vision of what you're trying to achieve. So as a transformational leader, you need to be clear on your personal purpose, but you also need to be clear on your organization and organizational purpose, because that's what you're selling to the people you're leading, and that's putting in context the journey they're going to be going on with you. Communication is important for a transformational leader. You need to be able to communicate clearly. Quite often, the communication rule I use is you keep communicating the message, even though you're sick of hearing it, maybe yourself. But if you don't hear the words coming back to you from your leadership team or the people you're leading, then you probably haven't got through yet, and they think you've just had another bubble idea you need to keep communicating the main concepts and your purpose and your vision until people are talking about it and implementing it on a day-to-day basis. Communicating clearly and consistently is a critical skill for a transformational leader. And you need to empower people. So a constant battle I'm having with my clients is letting go. Empower your people, give them high-level direction, and then empower them to make decisions and be able to get on with stuff rather than to constrain them. And it's easy to say, and it's very hard to do. A lot of people, especially in SMEs, find that very difficult. And then, of course, as a transformational leader, you need to be a problem solver. And part of that is being agile and being able to embrace challenges that come to you and solve problems using the brain's trust around you, the leaders and people you have around you, but also being willing to make decisions and move on, but not get too paralyzed. Okay, so let's have a look at the last survey. Here it is. How important is the development of a real leadership EQ, so emotional intelligence for leaders? So how important is the development of real leadership EQ for the modern leader? Let's see how we go with this. Essential. Look at this. Beautiful.
Hang on.
Okay, how many responses did we get, Steve? Good.
Can you put the thing on again, the code?
The code down the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah. Make it bigger, please.
Craig, can I just add to that? I've actually pushed option B because I think it was essential in the past and it's essential in the future. It hasn't changed.
Okay, good. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mark, and I don't disagree. But I think it's being talked about a lot more now. So maybe it's a bit more front and center. I think in the business you're in, that makes perfect sense. But in most organizations, especially when you're managing hybrid work environments and things like that, I think one of the things that came out in our research was so much important for leaders to actually really listen to their people and not just ask questions and move on, which I think we've all worked with people who are just going through a process, haven't we? So, okay, thank you very much for that. We'll go to the next. So I'll just sum up then from my session, and then we can I can hand over to Bill into the work. So this is what I talked to you about: shaping the future you. The key points were learning. The high-level points were learning, psychological safety, talent management, creativity, and transformational leadership. So I hope you found the content interesting. It's been derived from many, many discussions, and obviously we haven't gone into all the details because we wanted to keep you interested. But there's a lot more stuff available in the podcast that we've published.